Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ask Coffee and Line Culinary Academy. My name is Chef Caesar, and today I want to show you how to make a wonderful sauce that I really like to make. It's so easy, doesn't require much for cooking except your pine nuts to toast them. What it is a pesto sauce. And this is a wonderful sauce from the Italian cuisine that we got this. And actually, pesto has been around for so many years, but the first written text that we have about a recipe was written in 1863 in this Italian cookbook called La Cucinera Genovese, which translates to the Genovese cook. And it was the first time that it was like a recipe of pesto was written, but this was done, but before them, it was already done. And the word pesto comes from the Italian word pestare, which means to crush. And in the old days, they probably didn't have those fancy machines we have nowadays, the RoboCoop, the food processor, blenders. They probably used a marble mortar and a wooden pestle, which they had to crush everything by hand, and it wasn't probably as fine as we make it today. But let's start, with showing you the ingredients. We have, to make pesto sauce, we need to have fresh basil. You cannot make it with dry basil. Sometimes I see students trying to make it with dry basil. It doesn't work. It's going to taste really horrible. It's not even look good. So don't try it with dry basil. Dry herbs work so different than fresh herbs. And like I got this beautiful basil here I got this morning from my garden. And then I will have some olive oil. We got some pine nuts that we need to toast in a little while. I got some Parmesan cheese. I'm using a blend. I'm using Romano and Parmesan. Romano cheese is made from sheep's milk, so it's a little more sharper and it's nicer than I like it myself. It's a little more stronger flavor. And some crushed garlic too. I got some rough chopped garlic here. Also, I got some salt and pepper. And be careful with the salt when you season your pesto because it's the cheese is salty, so you don't want to end it up with a really salty pesto sauce at the end. And if you have a lot of basil at home, like now in the summertime, if you don't know what to do, you can make a big batch of pesto sauce, and you can, refrigerate it for up to a week, or you can freeze it and then use it later on. I mean, you can make so many wonderful dishes. Pesto really goes pretty much with anything. You can make a pizza, use it for a pasta, for the shrimp dish, the chicken dish, and the salad, like a dip in your bread. You can put it in a sandwich, mix it with mayonnaise. I mean, it's endless. It's really like a basic sauce, but it really goes well with everything. The flavors are so refreshing. And now I want to start by, showing you how to properly toast your pine nuts. Pine nuts come from a cone from a pine tree. It's a white pine tree, and these nuts are really expensive, so you want to be careful when you toast them. You don't want to burn them too much. And also one more thing, you don't have to add any oil to the pan when you're toasting your pine nuts. I see some students sometimes they drown the pan. There's no need for that. These little nuts have a high oil content that when you start to heat them up, the oil starts to come out. This is what helps in the browning process. So you don't need any oil whatsoever to do your pine nuts. And you can also, cook them, toast them the day before. If you're cooking dinner, you got a little extra time, get your pan, get them ready, toast them up, because you want to cool them off too. There's one more mistake the students make. As soon as they take them out of the heat, it goes into the, in the blender, and this kills the color. You end up with a brown, not too nice look in the pesto sauce. You want to have a bright green, really nice. And I see there's really nice pesto in the mise en place, and I look, it's like, what happened here in between? So the thing is, they blend the pine nuts with the pesto right away, and this, what happens, it kills the color of the basil. Basil is one of the most delicate herbs you can get, okay? If you want to store basil in the refrigerator, keep it in a plastic bag and also in a paper bag. So, because when it gets too cold, it turns brown right away. See, I got this from the store, and you can see this, it starts to get brown. And this morning I picked some from my garden, so I haven't, this is still real nice and green like this, but if I put this in the refrigerator and it gets too cold, it's going to turn brown, and brown basil really doesn't make a nice sauce. You have to really throw it away, because it just goes really bad. Like I said, it's not like rosemary, thyme that are more strong and they can live longer. This is really delicate. It's like one of the most delicate herbs you can get. So let's start by, browning our pine nuts. I got my pan here. And like I said, you don't need any oil. Make sure you keep shaking the pine nuts around, because you don't want to burn them. Because if you do, one thing, they're really expensive to begin with. You don't want to waste them. And also, you're going to end up with a bitter flavor when you make your sauce. So you want to kind of, keep shaking those. And you're going to feel like they're going to start to stick. Because like I say, the oil is going to start to come out as soon as it begins to warm up and heat up. And you can see they're going to start looking shiny, because this is the oil on the pine nuts that, it's getting heat up and it's starting to come out. So you want to constantly keep, shaking them around. You can see they're starting to get brown right away, because my pan was probably too hot. You can also brown this in the oven, but you know, be very careful, because if you like, sometimes in restaurants we use a lot of pine nuts. If you do, and we try to, you know, brown a bunch of them ahead of time, and if you don't want to burn, because you know they're expensive, so it's you know, one of those things you gotta be careful. You can see that they start to get brown right away, because like I say, the oil, they look kind of shiny too, because the oil is coming out and they're beginning to brown. So you want to keep shaking the pine nuts. And like I was saying, you can make them the day before, toast them, put them in a little dish, leave them in the counter. You can make your pesto next day, so you don't have to like do everything at once. And you can see, I mean, you can see a lot of oil around the pan. There was nothing in here. You can see that there's oil in the pan. It looks nice and shiny. This is a real nice source of protein too, this pine nuts. But again, they really get brown real quick, so be really careful. You want to get a nice golden brown color on them, because you want to get the nice nutty flavor. And you can taste them beforehand, and they're going to taste so different once you get them nice and brown. It's going to be like much more nutty, the flavor on the pine nuts. As you can see, they're starting to brown really nice. But again, you gotta keep shaking this. And sometimes you know, if you can't find pine nuts, I tell students probably use almonds, walnuts, or pecans. But one thing, the flavor is gonna be so different. Also the color, because you know, like pecans and walnuts, they have the skin on them, and they're also gonna give your pesto a little browner color. These are nice and white. So as you can see, we're almost ready to take them off. You wanna keep shaking this. They're almost there. Okay, they're done now. Now we'll take them off. Take them off the pan. Put them in the plate so they don't keep cooking from the heat that the pan has left over. So you want to transfer those to a nice dish like this. Now you can see they're nice and golden. And you can see the pan, it's got like oil. You can see, I can, you know, wipe it, and you can feel like the oily, because this oil and then the pine nuts came out, and it's like all over the pan. So you don't need any oil again to like make this toast your pine nuts. It's really easy to just do them without it. And now you can see this is nice and golden. They were trying to get a little too brown, but you don't want them to get more in there. This is pretty good enough. So I'm gonna put them aside. Now we're gonna pick our basil. We have a nice basil here, but you know, they have some stems. You wanna cut them off. And if you got like flowers like this at home, use them. I just go like this. Cut most of the stems off. As you can see, this is real nice basil. I got this morning from my garden. It's nice and fresh. So like I said before, you have some basil at home, you don't know what to do, this is what you can do. Make a nice pesto sauce, and you can freeze it, you know, or you can keep it in your refrigerator if you don't have a lot. But if you have a lot, you can, you know, put it in the freezer and use it later on, take it out if you need it. You know, it can last a while in the refrigerator, in the freezer as well. And this is going to be much better than one you buy at the store, because this is, you know, it's fresh, you know. And also you can make, you know, pesto sauce. I used to do it with sun-dried tomatoes. It makes a wonderful pesto. You follow the same, you know, directions, except instead of basil, you use sun-dried tomatoes, and it makes a wonderful sauce for like pasta dishes, and also do like a spread on your sandwiches, and it makes, I love it. It's great. And you have to, like, you know, if you do that, you gotta soak the sun-dried tomatoes, because sometimes they're really hard. You can soak them in some warm water, or some white wine, and leave them there until they get nice and soft. And then you just follow the same process. One day I made a nice pesto with some arugula. It's a little spicy, but it's great. It's, I mean, it tastes different than basil. The flavor is so different. It's got a little kick to it, but you know, it's nice and green as well, and it's nice. So you can make really pesto with a lot of things. You know, it's not a traditional pesto, but you know, again, we chefs would try to make different things and try new things, and that's what makes a cook stand out from the rest. When you try different things, be, you know, creative and try different flavors. I always tell the students, you know, don't be afraid to try something different. Now that I picked all the stems off the basil, we want to start making our pesto sauce. Yes.
If you freeze it, will it stay bright and green?
The question was, if you freeze basil, will it stay bright and green? Yes, it will. It's going to stay bright and green. Also, one more thing. If you want to keep it in the refrigerator, make sure when you're done, put it in the dish like this, do you put like a layer of oil on top. So the air doesn't get there. What happens is when you get the oxidation from the air, it starts to turn brown. But if you put like a little layer of oil, I'm going to show you at the end once it's done. Put a little layer of oil over the top and put it in the cooler. That's going to block the air from getting into the actual sauce. So you're going to have a little longer shelf life, and it's not going to turn brown right away. But yes, it will be nice and bright green if you freeze it right away.
How would you freeze basil leaves?
Well, basil leaves you don't freeze. Like I was saying before, they're so delicate, they would die right away. So you don't want to freeze that. You have to make the pesto sauce if you want to do this, and then you freeze it once it's done. But like I was saying before, it's really delicate herb. You don't want to, if it gets too cold, even in the refrigerator, it's going to turn brown and it's going to be like water. It's going to be just dead. It's going to die right away. So it only has a couple, 3 days in the refrigerator. So you make sure that you use it right away. But you never want to freeze any basil because it's going to turn brown and it's going to look really not nice like it is right now. So you don't want to do that. Anything else? Okay, now we're going to start by making our pesto sauce. I'm going to put some of the olive oil here, like half. Some garlic in there, and the garlic you don't have to chop really fine because we're gonna process in the fruit processor. It's gonna get chopped even more. But if you don't have a fruit processor, you can probably use a blender. But be careful that you don't blend it too much. You don't want to get like a puree. It's gonna look like a shake. You want to have some texture to your sauce. And now I want to wait to make sure that my pine nuts are nice and cool because I don't want to get my basil all brown when I put them in. They're almost there. I'm going to start pulsing this in low. As you can see. I have our pine nuts now. I don't have to do that. Just dump them in here. And those things smell great when you toast them like this. Wonderful. Now you start adding the oil really slow. You want to scrape the sides, so you push everything down so everything gets blended nice and even. If you think it's too dry, too pasty, you can add a little more oil. I'm going to see what it looks like at the end once I add the cheese. And you can make it like, the texture if you want. You can make it nice and thin, or you can make it a little thicker, whatever you want. See, I want to add a little more oil myself because I don't like it too thick. I still have to add a Parmesan cheese, so the recipe is going to be there. But again, you can kind of play with it and kind of look to see what you like it. Now it's going to give it more thicker because of the cheese. Also, if you make a pasta with this, like let's say you're making a cream sauce pasta, you want to add a little pesto then, make sure you add the pesto right at the end before you serve it, otherwise it's going to lose its color. It's going to be kind of brownish looking, so you want to have it nice and bright green. So you add a little spoon of pesto right at the end to your pasta sauce, and then you serve it, so it kind of keeps the color, because you don't want to heat it up for too long and kind of kill the color of your pesto. It's almost done. And when I add a little pepper and salt, a little pinch. And again, be careful when you add the salt. You don't want to add too much and make it too salty, because like I said before, the cheese is pretty salty already, so you don't want to, end up with a really salty pesto sauce. You can always add more then, but you can't take it off. Now I'm gonna show you. This is done. As you can see, it's really easy. There's not complicated at all. If you think it's too thick, you can always add a little more oil. But this looks really good. It's got a nice consistency, nice and green, and it smells wonderful. As you can see, it goes a long way too. Yields a lot as well. So if you have, if you grow your garden in the summertime, you don't know what to do with your basil, this is what you do. Put this out of the way. As you can see the consistency? It's not too runny, it's not too pasty. Now, like I was saying before, if you want to store this, could be in a different dish, something you're going to put a lid on. If you want to, just put a layer of oil, cover the top, okay? That way your pesto is going to be nice and green, because the air is now going to get right to it. It's going to last a little longer, and you can put this little, it's going to get a little harder when you put it in the refrigerator. It's going to get solidified, so it's going to be kind of, when you take it out, it might be a little, little hard to take out, but it's not like really pasty. It's still going to be runny, but don't think, oh, it's not good anymore. Then we'll have another question.
What do you think about changing the different hard cheeses to change the flavor profile?
It will. Okay, the question was, if you change the hard cheese, is it going to change the flavor? Yeah, because, like I told you before, I use a Romano and Parmesan blend. See, Romano is made with ship's milk, so it's a little more sharper. It's got a little more stronger flavor, so it's going to change a little bit. Not much, but it will change some. So definitely. But like I say, you have a nice pesto sauce. Really easy to make, bright green, and like you see me, it's really not easy, not that complicated. It's just you follow the steps, and like I say, try to cool your pine nuts before you put them in there, and your basil, don't use dry basil because it's not gonna look like that. It's gonna look really something you're not even gonna like. So, like I was saying, dry herbs work so different than fresh herbs. When you have fresh herbs, you don't want to put them, like if you're cooking this tomato sauce, for example, you don't want to put the fresh basil at the beginning. You want to do it at the end, because otherwise the flavor is gonna get lost. Because fresh herbs have more oils, and the oil is gonna come out right away. And dry herbs, you have to soak them up and kind of bring the oils back up and rehydrate them. But again, this is like I said, another question we have.
How do you remove the oil when it's ready to serve?
This, well, okay, the question was, how do you remove the oil when it's ready to serve? Well, you don't remove it, you're just going to mix it in there. You don't take the oil out of here, the one I put on top. So you don't want to put a lot. You just mix it back in there when it's ready. If you go like this, it's going to blend. And like I said, don't put too much, because otherwise you're going to have like a runny pesto sauce. So just a little layer on top just to keep it from turning brown. As you can see, you just blend it back up, and you shall have a nice pesto sauce. Any more questions out there? It's really easy, right? Nothing to it. So cooking is really easy, especially these sauces. It doesn't really require any cooking. It's just everything's pretty much fresh. You don't cook anything here except, you toast the pine nuts. But other than that, there's no cooking. I mean, you can add this to a different sauce, like an Alfredo sauce. You want a little pesto sauce at the end to give it a little extra, kick. It's fine, but you're not going to be cooking this. So like I say, just add it to the end before you serve the pasta dish, so it's nice and bright and green. And there's so many dishes you can do using pesto. You can put in a pizza, a sandwich, make a mayonnaise with it. I mean, it's endless. Whatever, if you really like pesto, it's a really nice, refreshing sauce. Maybe you never had it before. It's really unique. Give it a try. I mean, when you're a chef, you got to be able to try everything. I mean, I try anything. Honestly, I don't care what culture it comes from. If it doesn't look that good, it's got to be, something's got to be there. So I always, really like to try different things. So you be that way too. Try different things. Make a different pesto. Make walnuts, or use one with the sun-dried tomatoes. Change things around. That's the beauty about cooking. You can change things around and come up with different flavor profiles. So that's what it's all about. So if you have any more questions, I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to see you next week. I think we're making Alfredo sauce, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I use some of this pesto sauce to add it in, so we can make a nice pasta for next week. Well, thank you again for being with me today, and I see you next week.